China's national anthem, the March of the Volunteers, begins with a powerful call to arms. The opening lines urge the people to take their own flesh and blood and forge it into a new Great Wall. This poetic lyric is a dark, literal, historical truth regarding how the original structure was actually built. Today, millions of tourists visit these battlements to take photos and admire the ancient engineering, but they are hiking across a 13,000-mile-long graveyard. To understand the wall, we must look past the masonry and confront the immense human suffering that built it. This history is preserved in the folktale of Lady Meng Jianyu. She was a young bride whose husband was drafted into forced labor just 3 days after their wedding. When winter arrived with no word from him, she packed warm clothes and walked hundreds of miles to the northern frontier. By the time she reached the Great Wall, her husband had already died from the grueling conditions and was buried somewhere under the stone. According to the myth, her bitter weeping was so sincere that a massive section of the wall violently collapsed, revealing her husband's bones. While the magical collapse is fiction, the story was birthed directly from the horrifying, documented realities of forced imperial labor. When the first emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi, unified China, he prioritized the northern defense. He dispatched General Meng Tian with 300,000 soldiers to the frontier, but military manpower was only the beginning. The emperor relied on the corvée system, a forced labor tax where every citizen owed the state 1 year of their life. This system was grossly inequitable. The wealthy could easily bribe their way out, or pay for servants to take their place. This left the work to criminals sentenced for minor infractions and thousands of impoverished peasants. Historical records even indicated that children as young as 7 were forced into the labor pool. The Qin dynasty constructed the wall using an exploited, disposable underclass of its poorest and most vulnerable citizens. This map shows the immense, twisting route of the early wall. Builders had to adapt their techniques to some of the most hostile topographies in the world. In the flat plains, laborers used heavy wooden rams to violently pound lowest soil between boards into layers as hard as stone. The high mountains were a logistical nightmare. Heavy stones were quarried and passed by hand up sheer cliffs without modern machinery. In the arid Gobi Desert, where soil and stone were non-existent, laborers wove reeds and tamarisk twigs together to create frames for sand and gravel. The localized engineering triumphs of the wall relied entirely on the physical destruction of the human bodies extracting and carrying those materials. The volume of material required for this project was staggering. If you took all the stone used to build the Great Wall, you could build a barrier that circles the globe at the equator 10 times. Procuring those materials meant starvation, freezing winter temperatures, and total physical exhaustion. These insatiable demands led to massive mortality rates, turning the construction site into a literal graveyard and validating the core tragedy of the Lady Meng legend. Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi built this barrier to protect his unified empire and ensure his dynasty lasted 10,000 generations. His ruthless ambition backfired. The brutal labor practices and harsh rule caused intense domestic resentment among the very people he claimed to protect. In a profound irony, the wall built to make the Qin dynasty immortal fueled its total collapse in less than 2 generations. This political failure is why the legend of Lady Meng Jianyu survived. Her story became a way for a nation of impoverished families to remember the loved ones they lost to the frontier. The myth functioned as a collective coping mechanism for a population devastated by imperial ambition. While Lady Meng Jianyu is a composite character, the grief and loss she represents is a historically proven truth. The Great Wall of China stands today as a 13,000-mile-long memorial to the flesh and blood of the people